Omnichannel marketing is the approach that smart companies are using to drive a better customer experience. Studies have shown that companies utilizing an omnichannel approach are seeing upwards of 30% increase in sales. So what is omnichannel marketing and how can your company utilize this approach effectively? Hello, my name is Greg Maloney, and I'm going to explain what it truly means to have an omnichannel experience between your brand and the consumer. First of all, let's address this word omnichannel. Specifically the prefix omni, which comes from the Latin omnis, which means all or of all things. I also think the reference to the word omniscient is relevant for this comparison, which means having complete knowledge or all-knowing. Well, why are these relevant to the explanation of omnichannel marketing? Because omnichannel marketing refers to looking at all channels that the customer uses to learn about and purchase your product as one single experience. Instead of viewing each channel as a different experience and a different way to reach consumers, companies now realize that the path to purchase for a consumer is a single experience. This is because omnichannel marketing looks at the interaction from the customer's point of view. The customer doesn't care how the back end works from the business's perspective. They don't really need to be bothered with the fact that it takes a different skill set and resources to deliver your product through key big chain retailers compared to marketing and selling it online. The customer merely wants to learn about the product and be able to make an informed decision through all the resources available to them. Sometimes these resources are integrated, and sometimes they are completely disjointed. This is not the customer's problem, nor should it be. To them, it is a single experience or path that they are taking towards making a purchase decision, and every set of information they gather along the way is relevant to them. So now, if a customer has a bad experience through one of your retail partners, it negatively affects your position with the consumer through other retailers. On the flip side, anything positive your consumer experiences through one retailer can have positive effects with your product with other retail channels. Now, the consumer is the channel, and businesses need to flip their thinking around to address this approach. Historically, companies would start with their product and figure out how to get it to the consumer through the different channels available to them, designing the optimal marketing strategy needed for each channel along the way. At the end of this path was the consumer. Now the consumer needs to be at the beginning of the process, and the path is how to pull them into making a purchase. This path will utilize many channels along the way, but the key is to make sure they are integrated as much as possible so the customer is pulled closer to the purchase with each interaction instead of starting over every single time. Have you ever done extensive research on a product only to go into a retailer and have the salesperson give you information that you already knew? Isn't this horribly redundant? The salesperson's time and the customer's time at this point would be better spent discussing other things. But that salesperson has no idea where the customer is on their road to a purchase decision. So how can companies execute an omnichannel experience? Well, the key is with that other word related to omnichannel, which is omniscient. Being all-knowing or gathering as much information about the customer as possible is the key to omnichannel marketing. Every interaction that the customer has with your brand should be captured when possible, and that information should be linked together to form a cohesive story about your customer's road to making that purchase. Think of it as a single story, and you must be able to put all the pieces together to fully understand that story. Yes, this is going to involve a tremendous amount of data. Companies have been capturing data from customers for years, and this omnichannel approach is the perfect opportunity to leverage it. But it's not only about capturing data, it's about using that data to continue the experience. There are so many companies that use loyalty cards to capture shopper information, but the majority of the time, the card is presented at the end of the shopping experience, when the opportunity to use the information is already gone. So what are the keys to an omnichannel approach? Well, number one, capture data, and then capture even more data. In order to be effective in an omnichannel approach, it is imperative to gather as much information about the customer's behavior as possible. Be omniscient and try to become all-knowing about your customer. Number 2, link all that information together. We can no longer look at behavior in silos. How a customer behaves in one channel after interacting in another is key in understanding the whole picture. And number 3, use that information to continue the customer experience. When a customer interacts with your product again, they should be continuing the experience, not starting over. This ensures the greatest likelihood of them moving closer to that purchase. And finally, be creative. There is no perfect design for an omnichannel approach, and companies are still trying to figure out the best way to use technology to deliver this experience. As technology evolves even more, there will be greater opportunities to link all this information together and give the customer the best single experience with your product.